This is my demonstration of CSI 4273 Network Systems Programming Assignment 4. My name is Ryan Riley. Let's see. First, I want to start by saying that I downloaded the recently emailed test script, the test.py, and it does not work with my program. For one, it throws a bunch of errors. For one, it looks for caching to be implemented. That was extra credit for CSI 4273 students, and I did not do any extra credit. I just implemented the basic web proxy. So even with the threading part, I believe it looks for your program to accept a certain number of arguments, which mine just does not do because I did not implement caching. So it does not work. But I will demonstrate here that the basic implementation of the web proxy does in fact work, and yeah, I'm going to start by showing the demonstration that the way that the description said you could test your program through the terminal with Netcat, and then I'll do something. I'll use Firefox after that. So first, let me just load up the web proxy. Let's see. So I'll start it on port 10,001. And I'll just netcat into that port. And if you can see here, it says the thread launched. It'll show later in the code where exactly that happens. But then I'll just make a simple GET request. I'm going to use the website that was asked for in the test script just for demonstration purposes, which is this. It's that umich.edu website, the chemistry website. And there's the HTML. It looks like JavaScript, but there's the HTML. All's good. Now for something more interesting, I'll load up Firefox. Let's make it the right size so we can see what's going on. Now I need to make sure my settings are correct. So I'll go in here. I don't have a proxy set up on now. I'll put proxy on. As you can see, I've already done this. So I got localhost here, and the port there, 10,001, which is what I'm using. So now let's go ahead and load the web page. There it is. Alright. And let's see, what now? I could show you the code. Oh. One second. Sorry, this laptop's pretty slow while recording the screen and running a VM, so it's like hard for me to type. Now I'll go into the code here and just do a brief walkthrough. So first, we'll start with main. Here, it basically looks for, it looks for one extra argument other than the execution is, and that's the port number. Once it does that, it binds a socket to that port, and then listens for a connection. And once it finds a connection, it spawns a new thread here. and it passes. It runs as the main thread function handle proxy, which I'll show, and it passes the actual accepted socket. And then once that thread is launched and created, it detaches it. That way I didn't have to wait for it to join. pthread detach works in a way that it essentially allows the thread to exist on its own and then not exist on its own, but as soon as that thread exits, the resources are freed. It doesn't have to be joined back in the thread creation function. So it goes into this handle proxy function right here. Gets the request, and then basically just parses it, makes sure that it's a valid request, makes sure that it's the right protocol, make sure that it's a valid method under the document RFC 1945. And then if it is, it makes sure it's GET. If it's not GET, any of those conditions can trigger an error. But if it doesn't, if it's a valid GET request, it will go ahead and fall into this function and process that actual GET request. So if there's an error, if it doesn't meet all those, it goes into this error handler, which basically just constructs a basic HTML response, an error response, and sends it back. But if it's a valid GET request, it goes back into this process GET function and parses the URL and request to make sure that to actually construct the request it's going to send. So out of that, it will pull the actual host name and use getHost by name to get the IP. And then it also checks to see if there's a port here. If there is a port, it constructs a different it sets that to the actual socket right here. Otherwise, it just uses port 80 for HTTP. And then it connects a socket to that host server right here. And then after that, it reassembles the request with GET and then the actual file path. So for instance, if you typed get google/images/test.jpg, above where I showed before, it will pull out /images/test.jpg, puts it right here, puts in the protocol, and then it refills the rest of the header body, rest of the body I should say, and then sends that along, and then waits for the response, and while it receives the response, it forwards that on to the client. So the way it works is the client makes a connection with this proxy. That makes it spawn a new thread. In that thread, it parses the request, makes a connection with the requested host server, gets the necessary information from the host server, and forwards it back to the client. And after that, it just returns. Again, it's pretty simple. I didn't do the extra credit, so it was just a simple web proxy. And multi-threading is down here. I'm not exactly sure what all you were looking for in this video, so if I missed anything, please send me an email. It's ryan.b as in Bravo .riley@Colorado. I can amend this video or anything else that requested. So let's see. I think that's about it. Again, anything else, please ask me. I got multi-threading, the forwarding works, the website's view, and I think that's basically it for the simple implementation of a web proxy. Thank you.